People of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 249. Our guest today is going to blow your mind. When I was 24, I was teaching at the St. Paul Conservatory for Performing Artists. Oh yes, so swanky. The Landmark Center in St. Paul. Looks like Hogwarts. It's basically a castle. So I was running around teaching Spanish. I was not developing WordPress plugins. I was not groundbreaking technology as I passed through this particular section of the Milky Way galaxy. No, I was doing none of these things, but our guest today has done that and much more. To be his age and to have accomplished what he's accomplished is truly spectacular. But before we dive into all of that, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that Twitter stock is not doing what people expected to? No, it's not doing as well. I've talked about Twitter stock many times. Yes, it has jumped considerably since March. Its lows were $27 around April 9th. And it got all the way up to about $77. Currently sits at about 60. I'm not a big fan of Twitter. Call me crazy. I think all of these money grabs that they're going for, trying to get people to do like super follows, is ridiculous. I think time is better spent on places like Twitch and Reddit, but that's just me. Did you know there was a gentleman, a former farmer, 84 years old, that became a hit on YouTube in the ASMR community? If you're not familiar with them, they're the people that go to the microphone and they go. It's very weird. It's very weird. But you should check out YouTube on the ASMR stuff. This guy accidentally became famous. And so it just goes to show that if you're trying really hard to become famous online, sometimes you just need to be an 84-year-old retired farmer. Did you know, according to Newsweek.com, that there was a man who found a beautiful image of his late parents holding hands on Google Maps? How cute is that? I know the internet is a dumpster fire of garbage and racism, but every now and then you can find these beautiful little things of your late parents. For example, a photo of them holding hands. I just think that's the cutest thing, and I had to share that with you. Did you know that according to finance.yahoo.com, Pinterest could be the next big social media stock to invest in? I'm a big fan of Pinterest. We're currently getting 90,000 impressions for our lowly, humble ad agency, Send It Rising. Pinterest is amazing to me. It is the second largest referrer of traffic, and so I'm much more bullish on Pinterest than I am on Twitter. His name is Adrian. AD stands for ad. He's the ad man. Adrian Tobey, our guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, he's going to blow your mind. Welcome to the show. Hit the fog machine. Get me those confetti cannons. 3, 2, 1, Adrian Tobey.
I am... Yeah, you say the other people's minds. My mind is blown by that intro.
Let's go.
I've never heard someone maintain such a consistent high level of energy in my entire life.
And this is tea.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm just saying, I'm sure you get a lot this whole, oh, you're 24, and then they just dive into this. It's like, that's sort of the thing. And to me, that's
common.
Yeah, it's just like, tell me I'm crazy. And there's ageism in that, people, because they're boxing you into this sort of, you're at this stage in your life, and so I can kind of, put you into this sort of mental frame. How do you deal with that? Does that bug you?
Only sometimes. And you mentioned like ageism, where I get put in the box like, wow, he's like, wonderkind, and it's flattering, really. I just happen to have a lot of people surrounding me and in my circle of influence have spent a lot of time helping me and helping me get through some challenges. And, I also experienced the other side of the spectrum, where because I'm 24, I am unqualified to be doing what I'm doing. So I kind of get it. It's much more rare, but it has happened. So I kind of just try to just get on with it and just do what I do to the best of my ability. And, there are a lot of people out there in the world, and especially in the industry that I operate, that are more experienced with me. And I just hang around with them to get through it.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where for better or for worse, it tends to be a focal point. And that to me can be irritating. There's a lot of, people will open a business and they'll just be focused. I mean, women complain about this rightfully often, where they're just like, it's like this pervasive weight of having to deal with like either the good and the bad of it, you know. Minorities experience this all the time, and age is one of those things that you can't change. Can't change your gender, you can't change your race, you can't change your age. And so I think for young entrepreneurs, sometimes it can be very frustrating to not have the opportunities that you would be able to kill because people look at you. And so as a father, I tend to look at my kids and I try to take age out of the equation, you know? So I try to let them make good decisions and not be so focused on the age. And when I do that, I find that I'm a much better father. And so what are you going to do in the next 5 years as this becomes less and less of a stigma? How do you think that's going to change?
I just want to say that throughout my professional career and running my organizations, I have been incredibly fortunate to have received opportunities that most people in my group would have not been afforded. And that is because of just frankly the super high quality of individual of people that work within the industries that I work within, who have, you know, despite whatever my shortcomings, have spent significant amount of time at their own expense helping me and guiding me. So I just want to say that, you know, while there's the resistance is minimal, and I am just incredibly fortunate for the people that surround me. That being said, so 5 years moving forward, as this becomes like less, you know, it becomes less of sort of like this thing that surrounds my persona and my appearances on podcasts, which the whole 24-year-old thing is like something that happens a lot. We'll just be able to focus more on the stuff that I do have to share, right? And the lessons that I've learned in the short period of time that I've been in this industry and I've been helping people, and just getting to focus more on, you know, helping other people in situations similar to me. Actually, that's happening now, where I consistently work and speak with other newcomers in the WordPress plugin industry or the email marketing industry. And I've made all the mistakes already. Like, well, not all of them, but I've made a significant number of mistakes already. And I know the solutions to those mistakes now. So I've been helping Leslie with Newsletter Glue, or I've been helping Christian and his plugins, or I've talked to, you know, the guy who runs PeachPay and his stuff and his approach to asking other people to sell his plugins. And, you know, those mistakes that I've made, you know, I've made all the pricing. I sold too cheap. I had the wrong target audience. And I just look forward to being able to continue going and helping other people avoid those mistakes.
The other thing too is if you can start, I mean, you look at chess prodigies. I was so ignorant about chess, and chess has just exploded over the last, you know, year or so because of the pandemic.
The Queen's Gambit was an amazing
show. That too I loved the Queen's Gambit. I was into it before that came out. I started streaming chess live on Twitch. And what chess taught me, it's taught me a great number of things. But it taught me about streaming and all those sort of things. But what I wanted to talk about, and the reason I'm mentioning chess, is because these grandmasters at the highest levels are in their 20s. And people understand that if you get a 3-year-old playing chess, by the time they're 9, 10, 11, they could be like an international master, grandmaster by like 16, that sort of thing. The mind is its sharpest at that age. There's a reason why the best chess players on the planet aren't 60. They can't keep up. They can't memorize as much. They simply can't do it. And so that was a realization for me in regards to my internal prejudice about age, because I had thought that the best chess players obviously would be the oldest. They'd have the most experience, right? It's not hard moving a chess piece. But as we age, obviously, we lose some of that sharpness, that ability to memorize. And so you're in your prime. I mean, if you were a chess player, you'd probably have another 6 to 10, 15, you know, years to be kind of at that top of your game thing. So what's it like having just this incredible young mind that doesn't fog up and and you forget your keys and you don't know where your wallet is? Like, do you feel sharp?
The benefit is being able to work when the work's got to get done until 2 a.m, as I did a couple days ago. Sometimes the work's just got to get done, and because I'm young, I'm certainly able to do that and drink lots of coffee. And I do that now. Hopefully by the in the next few years, someone else will be able to do that, right? That's kind of
so you don't want to do it anymore. This is why companies hire young people. They're like, you've got energy, you go ahead, you do it.
Well, that's that's another thing. I employ a number of people, and I'm the youngest, right? So I employ exclusively people who are older than me. So that's also an interesting dynamic. That being said, everyone that I have employed to date has been nothing but exemplary in terms of their openness to guidance and direction. So that's also been I've been incredibly fortunate that I haven't really made any bad hires yet. From the perspective of like not being able to take direction.
I love that. That's so great.
I also I do want to just touch on the whole like the chess prodigy thing, and it's an interesting analogy. I do want to say though, there is there's a difference between like being super sharp, right, and also having experience. Right, because business isn't just about being smart. There's lots of smart people out in the world, but not all of them run businesses, right? Most of the smart people in this world are employed, not running the businesses themselves. And the difference in between those two things is experience. Nurture is a big part of it as well. And I'm young still. I've experienced a lot, and I have a lot of experience, but there's still much more to be experienced. And in order to fill in the gaps, that's when I go out and I seek, guidance from people who've been around a little bit longer than I have. Mm-hmm. Right. I have a network of successful business owners in my circle of influence, especially within the WordPress community: Chris Badgett, Vito Peleg, Jonathan Dentwood, Corey Miller, etc. And I regularly go to them. Because while they all seem pretty sharp to me, but while maybe on a scientific level their neurons aren't necessarily firing as fast, they certainly have lots to share and lots that I am not aware of yet. So I just want to throw that out there, because for anyone who's listening to this who's like, because you're older and it's not necessarily an opportunity, or you don't think that there's an opportunity to kind of go it alone, that's certainly not the case, because the benefit of experience always in business, I think, weighs more than your actual raw intelligence.
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, we get it, and you're checking off the boxes that you're supposed to check off, which are gratitude, having a good sense of humility, especially when employing people. I employ people that are older than I am. I'm 37. I started this company when I was 33, and a lot of the applicants are older than me. It's walking that tightrope can be it can be challenging sometimes, as my mind kind of goes, I have to provide direction, I have to be this certain kind of personality. So I get that. For you, it's even a more stark contrast, obviously, with the age discrepancy. But the other thing that I'll mention is emotional intelligence over time, due to the world beating you up. Like, your body slowly failing, things that you used to be able to do, you can't do, and just getting beat up, man. Having kids, becoming a father, like these sort of life events, and just the way that they change us permanently, it seems. I wanted to ask you, how do you, or I wanted to ask you about what you mentioned backstage, which was there was an event recently where you invested a decent amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. So talking about a gut punch, because I'm all about those gut punches, because they're real and they happen. So what happened there? What did you invest in?
So I think last year, June, July last year, so it's almost been 12 months. I started personally within my organization to explore new technologies in order to help us build better products to get better results for our customers. That's what we as software companies do. We innovate and we rob and duplicate, and we do all the best to make the best features and the best software to remain relevant and remain competitive and get the best results for our customers. So I started to investigate using React JavaScript, which is a very popular UI building framework, to create a new UI and experience to help us build features faster and make it beautiful. And because we get a lot of feature requests and a lot of them are about the UI, and we're like, well, we need to update this. We need to make it better. We need to improve. We need to innovate. So hired agencies, hired React devs, freelancers. I think all in all, probably on the better part of $100,000 to date.
Yeah.
In terms of raw R&D investment. And 80% of that, I think, was just pure waste. Because that's what happens during the R&D process. You spend 6 months going down a path which you set out ahead of time, and you think this is the way, like this is going to work. And I think to a degree, and this is where the experience part weighs in. Right. At this point, I'd been a sort of like a product lead. That the team was a little bit smaller at this point, and I'm still really the product guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like setting out a point, and I can see it visually. And I'm like, what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll basically, like, from the ground up rebuild everything that we've ever made to date in this like new framework and language, which requires like massive expense. And I'm thinking, like, this is possible, right? We totally can do this. I've done it before because we had, to a simpler degree, already had rebuilt the whole thing once, and like, we can do it again. That's gonna work fine.
Yeah.
Now I have the experience to tell me that that's not how it works. Unless you have unlimited investment from SoftBank or whoever, and you just have like them shoveling money into your organization. I'm a small business, completely bootstrapped, no venture capital, 100% owner. Yeah. So basically the money which we R&D is the money which we collect from the checkout page.
Yeah.
And so 8 months of just like constant work on trying to get this project done in what is unfamiliar territory, because it's a new language. So you have to hire specialized developers for that, which is expensive. And inevitably, it's like, you know, I'm looking at the progress which has happened today, and progress gets faster the longer you work on it. But even at that point, you know, it's like, is this only going to be done like next year? Mm-hmm. That's like, because the time that we're spending working on this is time that's our competitors are using to just build on top of what they already have and release new features and get all this other stuff done. And we're kind of standing still, or at least, you know, only releasing new features and optimizations once in a while because all of our efforts focused on this one thing.
Yep.
Again, experience would have, had I known this, experience would have told me that maybe we want to take a different approach. So eventually earlier this year, we looked at what had been done. We looked at what was left to do, and we're like, all right, well, we're going to have to put a pin in this because there's just no way that it's going to get done.
I love that. I love it.
So 6 figures basically in the hole at this point.
Yep.
Well, in the whole of development, we're a profitable company still.
Right.
And we're just like, back to the drawing board. What can we build quickly that is going to satisfy, tick all the boxes, but is also built in a way that we understand, that will be fast, but will still deliver on all of the promises that we originally made? And then in the span of a month, we had gotten to the point where the current project was, and far beyond that.
Oh, okay. So you did manage to build on your existing framework and get
So
to a similar
we
place.
actually designed a custom framework specifically for our purposes,
Okay.
but was built with technology that we know and understand. I had hired a professional UI UX person, so all that was done. So we could just go in, tweak the CSS, import SVGs, all of that stuff. And we're at the point where I'm currently in the process of going around to all of our integration partners and saying, hey, we've been working on this for a year. Release is imminent. Let's get on a call. Let's make sure that everything that you've built in terms of integrations or extensions to date is going to work. And if there's any updates, we're going to help you manage that and get up to speed. And we've made significant progress in a very, very short period of time, simply because we've decided to work with what we know, and work within those boundaries. And even in doing that, we've gotten pretty much 90% of the way to what my original vision had been. And I wish I had known that, because 90% of the way is often good enough.
That's right. That is one of the things about entrepreneurship that works for my personality, is it cannot happen fast enough for me.
Yeah.
I want it.
I'm very much the same way.
Now, dude, when I was in class and the teacher would just go in circles, and all of this information I know, and they keep telling me things I know, and I would sit there going, this is indoctrination, not education. I know that, like, it just drives me just insane. And we're going to see a massive revolution in education where individuals can be studying calculus in second grade if that's where they're at. Technology is going to allow for this, which is good. But that sort of homogenous, everyone, lockstep moves forward is just not for me. Yeah. Can't do it. And so I find that entrepreneurs aren't necessarily the straight A students. They are sometimes, but typically not. But they are folks that see the need for speed.
I dropped out of university because it wasn't going fast enough.
That's what I would say. It's like, come on, guys, you're killing me. You're just killing me with these lectures. And your story is not uncommon. The dropout, I think, is a silly
I'm not unique.
Well, yeah, but I just think it's funny that we have to use this word like drop, because you drop things, it's a mistake. Yeah. Like you drop a teacup, it's like, oh, I dropped it, like silly me, I shouldn't have done that. So I don't like that word.
Well, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I was in University of Toronto for computer science coding. Coasted my first year. And then in second year, I went to work with my parents in their digital marketing agency full-time. So I would do school part-time at night. And so I'd work full-time hours during the day. I'd get on a bus, go all the way downtown, because their office was in North York, which is about an hour commute via public transportation. So, and then I go all the way back down to university. And then I do CSC 265 calculus for computer science, log n, algorithms, all that fun stuff. And during that period of time, I also started working on my first product, which is called FormLift, which is one of the WordPress plugin companies, which I own. And I got super into kind of like pricing and business models and just creating products and seeing real businesses. I'm like 19 years old at this point in time, like just working on this plugin, and there's like real businesses with like 600 employees like that have it installed on their contact us page, and I think that's super cool. So I keep working on it, and instead of like studying for my courses, which I should have been in the library, I would work on features, sales pages, videos, help documentation for this product. And eventually in my third year, still doing it part-time, I failed my first course. For the first time ever. I had been a straight A student until that point. I got C's, I got D's, and I got a big fat F.
F is for fun.
Yeah, I was having fun. But that's not what university is for, I guess.
Correct.
So, I looked at my progress. Word coming up a lot this time. I looked at my progress from, when I had started to this point, and, using that, projected how long it would take me to actually get my degree. And this was in 2018. And I'd already been there for 3 years. And it would have taken till 2025 or 2026 to get my degree, doing it part-time, working full-time, and working on all my other stuff. And then I was at the point, I'm just like, there is no way I am investing, the $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it was per semester, for the next, how many years is that? See, this is why I failed a math course. For the next however many years.
Don't make me do the math. I'll put it to you this way, and I think you know this. Behind me is a master's degree in education. Who cares? No one cares. And like, if I ever wanted to go back to teaching, which I do not, then it would be relevant in some way, shape, or form. Okay. I think it's more of a feather in your cap not to have gone through it than it would be for you to have completed it. It's a more interesting story for you to have not done it than for you to have done it. There is that sort of hero's journey that involves this sort of experience. One of my good friends, Hansu Kim, one of the most successful business people I've ever met, just an incredible human being, an amazing martial artist. Same thing. I mean, he was in at the University of Minnesota, I want to say. I could be wrong on that. And he was flying to Japan on the weekends to go to speaker conventions to sell these super high quality speakers that he was manufacturing. And at some point he's like, what am I doing sitting in this class? It's so stupid. This is stupid. So he quit. And then he's been a businessman his whole life, Yeah. I think there's a small part in the back of his mind that still is kind of like, yeah, I feel like there's an itch for people that don't finish sometimes. So like, maybe I should just go back and just do it. So he went and did like a Harvard course, and he's got like these little Harvard things, little pin on his nice. On his suit jacket sort of deal. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just psychological.
And there's no prerequisite to be a business owner.
Yeah, you have to. Well, right. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Intelligence, motivation, these are helpful things to have.
Those are helpful things, but there's no education requirements.
No, there certainly is not. The same is true of digital marketing agencies. That's why everyone is a social media guru. I'm a guru. Yeah, okay. This is fine. I want people to understand the product. We have 2 minutes. We can go a little bit long today, no big deal. But why don't you just take a minute or two and just explain the product itself, where people can reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So if you're a small business, right, gotta keep in touch with your peeps, gotta keep in touch with your audience, gotta be able to reach them. One of the most effective ways to be able to reach your audience, even though there's lots of gurus, as you mentioned out there, who are preaching its downfall, is email. Email has been the consistent method for communication for the better past of, the better part of the last couple decades, to facilitate sales, engagement, events, etc. So how do you do that? How do you get people to subscribe, to engage, to open the emails that you send? Well, there's specific triggers, there's specific actions, there's specific methodologies that you can use to create a highly engaging content stream, content drip, and share that with your audience to invoke them to do specific things. This is the worst sales pitch ever.
I am so happy right now. Here's the thing. So a WordPress, all of you should be on WordPress, because WordPress, anything that isn't WordPress is garbage. And then the second thing is plugins on WordPress are one of the reasons why WordPress is so amazing, because it's open source and people like Adrian can develop these cool ass plugins. And when it comes to email marketing, there's a million ways to do it wrong. So you may as well use a tool and actually do it halfway decently, because if you're not doing it, it's ridiculous because it's still relevant. So if people want to reach out to you, how do they do that, Adrian?
Wow, in with the save. I couldn't have said it better myself. I do want to mention that so Groundhogg is an open source alternative to the big SaaS companies out there. So like ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, right? So as you grow, so does your bill with them. As an open source plugin that just gets installed on your WordPress, not only is it a flat rate cost, meaning that you only pay a yearly license fee, rather than paying an increasing cost for the size of your audience, the size of your list, the number of emails that you have in your contact database. You also own all of the data. So if you stop paying HubSpot, you stop paying ActiveCampaign, you stop paying Infusionsoft or Keep, you stop paying ConvertKit, your account gets locked and you can't access that data. You can't access your list. You can't access the emails. But with Groundhogg, you are complete ownership of that information. It's completely GDPR compliant. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's something that you want to learn more about, and you also want to be able to communicate effectively with your list using email or SMS, because we also do support that, then come to us at groundhogg with 2gs.io. And if you're interested in kind of learning more about my journey and some of my thoughts about running a business and some of my thoughts about pricing, business models, operating within the WordPress community, finding customers, speaking, doing podcasts, etc., you can find me and every show that I've recorded on other people's podcasts to date at adriantobey.com.
That's ADRIANTOBEY.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I once went to Boston to attend a HubSpot conference, and it was like a strangely cultish, religious sort of feel.
They're all cults, all of them.
I am so shocked that there are modern religions around like these plugins and like marketing. It's very, very strange. Michelle Obama showed up at one point. I'm like, what is happening right now? Very confusing, but they have more money than God. They have all the money. And the reason they have all the money,
the money's in the list,
is, well, first of all, I mean, people are making money using their products and services. That's fine. But listen to what Adrian just said about you don't have access. Okay. They've got you. They've got you. You can't leave. It's like that cult vibe where like you're in and like, oh, you want out? Blood in, blood out. It's like an MS-13 gang thing. Like, it's so weird. So if you're going to use somebody that actually says, hey, look, it's your data, you keep it, right? Because that's what's ultimately going to win. Okay. Final thoughts for the fine folks, Adrian.
Well, number one, thanks for having me on the show. I know you said that we'll do this again, so I'm looking forward to part 2.
Yes, sir. All right.